Hey, Patrick.
Hey, who invited you?
I organize the meeting, so
I'm kidding.
I'm
I'm
always there.
kidding.
Make
I'm
sure you train them
kidding.
correctly.
All right. Well,
Hello.
we were gonna talk about you first, but now that you're here, Jair, we gotta be nice to her. I wasn't aware that LJ was gonna be on the call. I had a whole spiel to say about her, but this will be nice for now.
What's any different than when you tell it into our face?
Well, I'm a little nicer behind your back than I am in front of you, so I don't know. I
Oh my
respect you. I
goodness.
respect you, LJ.
Mhm. Mhm.
Jair, when you meet LJ, you'll see that she's a little ball of joy. She's about 4'11", but full of energy.
You take that back. I am not 4'11".
Oh, I thought you meant the full of energy part.
No, that I am. I am not that short.
I
All right,
disagree.
Patrick.
Hey, Daniel.
Yeah, no, Jair, I think you had your camera on last time, so I'll turn my camera on today.
I'm here.
All right. Well, I want you to have your camera on so I can see if you're asleep because this will be boring. This will be very boring information. So, I will share my screen now. LJ, are you preparing a training checklist for these gentlemen?
Yes, I have that right here. So, yes.
Okay, so we're gonna cover UL and ISO training uh,
Okay.
today. And gentlemen, I did send you just about 10 minutes ago. I sent you both attachments that we're going to be going over today. Um, I want you to know that the MSI ISO training material is one that I would need you guys to fill out. It's a light training if you want to call it that. There's no easier open book test than that. It's a couple pages of what MSI ISO 14, I'm sorry, 9001 is, and then there's a short quiz at the back end of it where you're just having to fill in blanks. And all of the answers are going to be in the content that we go over above it. So it's an open book test. If you get it wrong, I will shame you guys to all MSI employees.
Okay.
And then the second material is just more for reference only. Um, LJ, have you gone over where the work instructions are, or I don't even know if we've provided these gentlemen with work instruction locations?
Yes, I have.
Okay, all right. So then you'll find this same material. Jair, you're already yawning, man. We haven't even started yet.
um,
All of this material you'll be able to find in the work instructions that LJ's shown you guys. All right. Can you guys see my screen?
yes. Yes.
All right, perfect. All right, take notes. It's gonna be fun. Um, I will start. Honestly, I think I'll start with the ISO training. I think that's going to be faster, and it won't put you to sleep as quickly. Are you guys familiar with ISO 9001 or any quality management system for that matter?
Just heard of it, but
Okay.
I'm not
My
familiar
previous
with what it
jobs.
entails.
Okay. Um, in fact, actually, you know what, LJ, I need to make sure that I send these guys the 14,001 training material also.
Okay.
Um, so 9001 is a certified quality management system. Um, this is going to be things that, it's going to be documentation control. It's going to be um, uh, basically a high level view of all of our processes, ensuring that we can hit certain targets consistently. So it's documenting how we do things. So it's formalizing pretty much our processes. Um, 14,001 is going to be more along the lines of environmental impacts and how our processes impact the environment. So I'll get you guys that training material shortly, and it'll be actually, you know what, we can go over it while we do this. Let me do that right now. All right. So you guys have a quick reference if you want to pull that up and take a look at that when you guys have a spare moment, but we'll go over it together right now. All right. So I'll get started. Oh, can't see you. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna kind of read this, and then if I have anything to add to it, I'll add some other things that might not be listed out here. Okay. All right. So marketing systems and MS die cut, and you'll hear me as I talk about the two companies. Typically, I'll just say MSI, or I may say MSX. Just understand I'm talking about both. Since the companies are integrated, we share the same everything: employees, presses, work instructions. So pretty much everything across the board is going to be connected. So I may not say MSD specifically, but they're included whenever we talk. Okay. So ISO, it stands for International Standards Organization. It needs to be clear that whenever you guys are talking to customers, tell them that our product is not ISO certified, only our quality management systems. The ISO group, they don't certify businesses or products as ISO, having ISO 9001 conformance. And you'll see out in the industry, a lot of companies will say they're ISO certified, or they'll say they're ISO, like their organization is. And that's something that the ISO organization is trying to clean up. So our quality management system is ISO 9001 certified. Our products are not, and the company is not either. Okay. More information on it is so that means that we have a way to control the product and monitor the product quality, certifying to comply with requirements of the ISO standard. It includes monitoring product quality and processes involved in making the product. We create procedures, work instructions, training checklists for each position to keep track of the training. In addition to those things, we also have flowcharts, turtle diagrams, other visuals that assist with this record keeping and tracking of our procedures. The quality department, so my team, we monitor the personnel training, we make updates, we maintain work instructions, we conduct quality improvement processes, as well as collect data, analyze the data for trend, and we also are responsible for non-conforming product. So those are your internal, external rejects. You should have, and if you didn't, LJ, we need to get them quality policy. I guess we could, I mean, I guess you don't have to have a physical one, but the quality policy placards, or I'm sorry, the note cards.
Yes, I have some extras.
Okay. If you have anything going to these gentlemen, do you mind sending those inside of the package?
Yes.
And these are what these documents are. It's just going to be a quick reference point for you guys to see what our policy and our objectives are. Okay. And then we have placards. So when you guys ever visit here, you'll see that they're going to be posted. There's about 20 to 25 posted around the building. And it's just kind of to communicate what the our ISO 9001 stance is, our policy, and our objectives. Okay. There are other goals. So I'll quickly just kind of highlight the three goals. Our targets are: we measure our on-time delivery, we measure our internal, external rejects, but there may be some smaller level targets that production may have. These aren't targets that we keep up with. My department didn't keep up with and measure. That's more for the process capabilities, performance, and things like that. So this is more of a higher level record keeping as far as analyzing our performance. Okay, so MSI has 9001 2015 Certified Quality Management System. ISO defines the basic criteria of good business practice, such as setting quality goals, ensuring customer requirements are understood and met, employees are trained how to do their jobs, correct problems and make sure they don't happen again, and then continuously improving the processes. The MSI quality policy and objectives are displayed in every department. Like I said, there's 20 to 25 around the building, and they're communicated to all employees in our on-hand meetings. On-hand meetings, we actually have one scheduled for next week. An on-hand meeting is a kind of a all hands on deck. All employees will show up to the upstairs production area, and we will go over different metrics for the last month. So we'll tell everyone how we did as far as on-time delivery, internal rejects, external rejects go, vendor on-time delivery. We also discuss, we celebrate birthdays. So anyone who has a birthday for the month of August will be celebrated next week. We also celebrate anniversaries. Greg has a really strong stance on employee retention. So it's an opportunity for us to celebrate the folks that have been here for a long time. Just as an example, I think for this month, we have 166 years of experience through the 15 employees that we'll be celebrating, two of which have 30 years. And then I have a few people at 26, 24, 17, and then it kind of goes down from there. But also in that meeting, we celebrate $100 ideas and things like that. So if you guys are ever here during that, you guys will be able to have the opportunity to see how all of the information is communicated to all of our employees. And occasionally we'll give some money away and stuff like that there. Okay. The quality system includes procedures, work instructions, which are represented by this document. Please note that this is a manual. Please note that this manual is subject to change at any time according to manager's decisions, and a copy of this revised manual will be provided to you when a revision occurs.
I have a question. I don't know what LJ meant by that. That she will be broadcasting so you can participate.
So when we do it, they have so I'll get y'all on while we're there up at that meeting next week, and that way you can at least see it while it's going on.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Hopefully the birthday song goes better. I heard the birthday song wasn't so good last time in my absence, and I'll be out this time also. All right. So it's important that we say what we do and then we do what we say. So our QMS is based on processes. A process is any activity that takes inputs and creates outputs. Having good processes ensures that a customer gets the part that they need, that meets their needs, and that they order again and they get the same thing. Processes are documented in flow charts, procedures, and work instructions. It's highly important that just in the nature of business, we tend to make little subtle changes to different processes in production. So, for an example, the clamshell manager may say, instead of die cutting using this polyester, we're going to die cut using this polyester. And instead of doing your make ready on this side, we're going to move it over to this side to improve the workflow. Well, little changes like that have to be documented because we need to do what we say, and then we need to say what we do, and then we need to match that with actions, right? So a lot of the time, we're spending a lot of time changing documentation, flow charts to align with the actual business practice that's happening right now. LJ can attest to that, I think, with customer service work instructions that are constantly being updated and improved. It's kind of an ongoing, it's almost like a dog chasing his tail because it never
Yes.
stops improving. We're constantly updating documents, constantly. The benefits of good processes include increased productivity, less scrap and rework, increased employee satisfaction, and increased profits. I would even dare to say customer satisfaction as well. And that's one of the metrics that we have to measure with the ISO 9001 is analyze customers' satisfaction. Each department's process map, which is a process flowchart, is included in all of the quality checks that are performed. And a copy of the map can be viewed online on the M Drive. So if you need help finding that, let me know. LJ could probably be a good reference for that as well, but that's going to be in the same folder where the work instructions are stored. At MSI, we have defined processes throughout our organization, but they're not perfect. That's where you
Patrick,
guys. Yes, sir.
sorry to interrupt. Before you continue, you mentioned that with the ISO, we evaluate the customer satisfaction, right?
Yes.
How do we evaluate the customer satisfaction?
Good question. So there's a few ways. So some of our customers, some of the larger customers will actually send us scorecards. LJ has a customer named Omnion who sends a monthly scorecard, and then they will send a quarterly scorecard with the number on there. And typically, typically it's on a 0 to 100 score. If it's not, then we'll adjust it for the 100 score range, or you know score. Uh, the other way that we get or the other way that we receive customer satisfaction or measure customer satisfaction is by way of surveys. And we're actually in the process of trying to implement a survey process now to where we have a customer tell us how well we're performing, how well our products are, how well are you being serviced, how likely is it that you would talk to us about another, talk to us about another opportunity with another, some other company. Answer
Okay.
your question?
So right now, as I understood, not every customer is evaluating us, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
so we do not get 100% response from our customers. So what we'll do is we'll try to target certain customers. Some of the bigger customers, the ones who kind of keep the lights on. Um, but then some customers just in their system, they already evaluate their suppliers, which is pretty normal. And by getting those performance scores from them is how we calculate how well we're doing or how poorly we're doing.
Okay. Thank you so much for that answer, Peter.
Actually, LJ just sent one, so let me just open this one up real quick. So this is an example of a scorecard that we get from Omnion. And this one's going to be a monthly scorecard. At the end of the quarter, they'll send a quarterly scorecard. They will always have the maximum score, um, and where we land as far as performance goes. With any customer, for the most part, when they send a performance like this, if you fall below, say for instance, you fall below a C, that may mean that they have to remove you as an approved supplier, or they may have to have some kind of elevated inspection process for incoming products coming from marketing systems because we've continued to make certain mistakes or something like that. So we aim to try to stay in the A's. When I see an A, I just save it and I move on. If I see that we've scored a B or below, then we'll spend a little bit more time to see what is it that we were short on. Was it performance? Was it rejects? Was it lack of response? Was it pricing? Is it delays in jobs? Did I affect their ability to ship on time? So those things are always taken into account whenever we get a scorecard.
Okay.
Thank you, LJ. All right. Part of ISO 9001 is also continuous improvement. So as an example here, when you're trained on when you're trained and you're competent on your responsibilities, you're a major influence on driving process improvement. So for example, if you found some broken glass in the kitchen, what would you do? Most likely you put it in a safe place to protect somebody from getting hurt. All right. That same thinking should apply to your job. You should look to protect our customers and getting from getting something that they don't want. If something looks wrong, say something. Don't count on somebody else to point it out in production. All right, what can you do to help? While it's important that we follow these procedures, we increase our ability to protect by continually looking for ways to improve them. If you have an easier way of doing something, please say something. If something doesn't make sense to you, say something. There is no such thing as a small improvement, and all improvements lead to a better process. So without your suggestions, MSI will not improve. When I brought up the all hands meeting a second ago, and I said that we hand out money occasionally at these meetings. I have five $100, five $100 ideas that are going to be paid out. And these are usually things that you save the company time and money because you found a better way to cut a product. That's one of the examples that I have. It could be that you've found a way to improve speed through production. Um, you found a way to reduce steps in production, things like that. And so when we get ideas, you guys, if you think of ways that we can onboard customers better, or a faster way to enter orders, or something that could lead to a procedural change, shoot it to LJ and Sheila, and we can present it to the team and let the team vote on if it's a good submission, and then we'll formalize it by putting it in a procedure, and I'll send you your money. All right, so now we're going to get into the quality policy. The quality policy here is that we are committed to meet or exceed customer statutory and regulatory requirements while providing products and customer service of the highest quality at a reduced cost within a time frame given. We are committed to maintain quality management system and will continually improve its effectiveness to meet the requirements of the ISO 9001:2015 standard while building relationships with our suppliers to ensure product integrity. I need you guys to remember that by heart, okay? Kidding, kidding. I need you guys to get familiar with that, get familiar with the policy. You don't need to remember it verbatim, but remember key elements in it, and then think about how do you contribute to that? How do you impact? So for you, it will be getting information from our customers, ensuring that we have all of the information that we need in order to provide them with the product that they need. Sometimes the requirements of their drawings they have unstated requirements. And so we have to be able to see through some of the things where they don't provide us all of the information. Um, I'm going to get to regulatory in a second when we get to talking about UL, but there's going to be some regulatory requirements that we'll have to meet. And so sometimes your customer doesn't know, and we're their experts. And so we have to make sure that we're complying and we're providing them with products that also comply with their needs. The quality policy is appropriate for the purposes and the context of MSI and supports the strategic direction. Top management reviews this quality policy for continuing suitability during management review meetings, and that's typically once a year. The policy includes commitments to comply to ISO 9001 requirements, to comply with customer product requirements, and also to continually improve the effectiveness of the QMS. MSI and MSD has established the following quality objectives. And these three things, I want you guys to also get familiar with it. I would prefer that you kind of know these maybe by heart, not necessarily the objectives, or I'm sorry, the policy as much, but these three things are important. So we want to meet or exceed customer on-time shipments on at least 90% of the order. So we want to be 90% on time or better. Okay. And this is on a monthly and a yearly goal. We want to reduce internal rejects to under 2.5%. And we want to reduce external rejects to less than 1%. Okay, so the idea here is that you catch the mistakes before they leave the door. You want to have ways to detect the mistake before it ever gets released to the customer. I tell people all the time, I'd rather be late and right than to be wrong and on time, because then I have to redo the job and then I'll still be late. So we want to make sure that we do it right the first time. And if we don't, we want to catch it. We want to detect it before it ever leaves this dock. The results of the quality objectives are evaluated during DMI meetings. DMI meetings are monthly meetings with all of the managers, where we discuss topics that need to be discussed amongst the managers. It's our one time to get everyone together in one room. We go over the efficiency of production. We go over rejects. We go over mistakes. We go over new news, whether we are or we aren't meeting objectives. So that's kind of a meeting that lumps us all together in one room. We also discussed the quality objectives at all hands birthday meetings and at management review meetings. And then we compare to previous results to determine if there's any negative trends, positive as well. And then any actions arriving from that analysis are the results, and they're documented in the DMI meeting notes, and they're warranted on the B3 log. The B3 log is a log of how we register risk here. So if there's problems, and I don't know if LJ, if the procedure for B3, if you guys have gone over the procedure for the risk assessment, or if there's anything that you guys need to go over, I can send that to you.
Yes, because I've never known that we needed to do that.
No, it's just more informational. So the B3 log, it identifies how we assess risk. So we have a better tab, and these are things that are improvement initiatives. We have a big log, and these are things that can affect the organization potentially in a negative way. And so we log those things that could affect us, and then what are we doing to mitigate those negative effects or impacts? And then we have a bad tab, which is this is major. This requires immediate attention. This could affect the organization as a whole or the quality management system, but it requires immediate action. And so it kind of has a 3-tier level in how we address it. Okay, so it's just more of a risk assessment. And then this second page here, or I guess this is the 4th and 5th page. This is going to be for you. So as you open up your emails, use this information to fill out. Use this information to fill out this page. Okay. And then if you
Okay.
could get that back to LJ, or you can even reply back to me on the email that I sent these documents on. Just get it back to me. We'll get it saved and get your file updated, because that is one thing that we have to have checked off on your checklist, is that we communicated it and that you guys understand it and you understand where you fit within that role.
Okay, will do.
And then I just sent the 14,001 training material as well. This is going to be a similar type training document. I'll go through this really quickly, and then I'll jump on to the UL, because that's going to be the part that may have the most questions or be the most confusing. Okay. What is ISO 14001? It's another international standard, but this one's going to be for environmental management systems, while the first was a quality management system. Okay. This standard provides structured framework that enables MSI to design, implement, and maintain an effective EMS, and it allows us to continually improve our environmental performance. So the intent is that this standard helps MSI use resources more efficiently, reduce waste, comply with applicable legal and regulatory requirements, gain a competitive advantage, build trust with customers, partners, and stakeholders. You'll probably, as you guys are getting more familiar with your customer base, you're probably going to start seeing more and more customers asking for uh, companies that have these types of quality management systems and environmental management systems, especially the larger ones. And especially if you're dealing with international customers, a lot of them are now kind of pushing towards having some kind of system in place, whether it's this certification or another certification. You'll start to see some of these requests come in more and more frequently. And at times, it actually prevents our ability to even be approved by certain customers. If they require that we have a certification on record, it may prevent us from actually getting work and building a relationship with our customers. So by adhering to the 14,001, we're taking proactive steps to minimize our environmental impact, fulfill compliance obligations, and achieve our environmental objectives. All employees share responsibility of supporting the environmental objectives and upholding the company's environmental policy throughout the year or until updated. Are just like the quality management system policy and objectives, the environmental policy and objectives are also displayed throughout the facility. They're all in the same place. And these documents outline our goals and provide direction for our ongoing suitability efforts. Okay, what can you do to help? So we've defined processes across the organization, but again, no system is perfect, and that's where we need you guys. So once you're trained and you're competent in your role, you become a key contributor to the process improvement. So 3 things that you could do: follow procedures to maintain compliance and consistency, speak up if something doesn't make sense or could be improved, and then share suggestions for making tests easier, more efficient, or more environmentally friendly. All right, so you guys are working remote. You may print out more paper than being here, or I don't know, you leaving your lights on when you walk out of the room, but you're going to be gone for a while. So just different things that you can do that impacts the environment. Just keep all of that in consideration. Okay? Recycling, reusing material if you can reuse it, things that we can just reduce our impact. Okay. Our environmental policy is going to be long-winded, just like the quality management system policy. MSI is committed to protecting the environment, the health and safety of our employees, and the community in which we conduct our business. It is our policy to seek continual improvement throughout our business operations to lessen our impact on the local and global environment by conserving water, energy, water, and other natural resources, reducing waste generation, recycling, and reducing our use of toxic chemicals. We are committed to environmental excellence and pollution prevention, meeting or exceeding all environmental regulatory requirements. As a company, we are committed to complying with the requirements of ISO 14001, 2015, and we will continually monitor and review our environmental performance with active involvement, leadership from top management. And this ensures accountability, drives continual improvement, and reinforces our dedication to environmental responsibility across all levels of production. It's a lot of words there. Okay, so don't remember it by heart. Just have a general understanding of what this is and kind of where you fall. What can you do? How do you impact these things? Just like our quality management system, we have objectives. These are things that we want to meet. And so we have to ensure that our objectives are consistent with the policy, they're measurable, and they're approved by top management. So top management ensures that the three objectives are clearly established, understood across all appropriate areas of MSI, that they align with product environmental requirements where applicable, and that they're actively supported through collaboration with production management on team members. All right, so much like the QMS, a lot of this kind of overlaps as far as the language goes. The results of the environmental objectives are evaluated during management review meetings, and then comparisons are made to previous results to determine negative trends, and then any actions arising from this are going to be documented in management review meetings, or if warranted, the B3 log. Excuse me. So these are our three objectives, and this is what I want you guys to, just like the quality management system, there's three goals that we want to make sure that we're meeting, and I want you guys to be familiar with. On a year-to-year basis, we want to reduce our water usage by 5%. Based on yearly revenue. We also want to reduce our energy usage by 5%. And then we want to implement and organize a recycling program, which we've already established. Okay. This is going to be your section here. So just like the quality management system training notes, the ISO 9001 training materials, please fill this one out and return this one back to me also.
And the objectives, change every year.
So right now, so the objectives don't change every year. Right now, the goal is to reduce by 5% based on our yearly revenue. So with the understanding that with more sales could come more waste or more energy usage, we realize that you can't reduce energy usage by 5% every year if that's just the goal, right? Because at some point you meet a level where you can't get any better, where like you will not be able to reduce it 5% every year. So right now, the goal is to reduce 5% based on revenue. And we've done a pretty good job at doing that so far. Though our water usage, we had a leak for several months that went undetected. And we know now, I think it'll be easy to meet our goal of water reduction considering the leak is fixed. I think that that's going to be a no-brainer. But we did have a huge spike where our water usage doubled for about 3 or 4 months before we started to review our water usage, and now we've gotten it under control, and the leak is fixed. And then the last thing, the recycling program, we've initiated that. We have that going now already. The goals, that was a good question too. The goals actually may change. I have a meeting that I'm scheduling for February to determine, are these still, at the management review meeting, are these goals still aligned with our strategic direction? Because at that point they may say, you know what, maybe the 5% reduction is impossible. Maybe we should have a different metric for measuring our success or failure. So right now, that's what we have. That's what we're going with for the moment. What's up, Daniel?
Just to get an idea, since we haven't been to the plant, how is water used at MSI and MSD? Is it for cooling systems or?
Yes, so there are some cooling systems for some of the machines that we use, some of the lasers. I believe there's going to be some kind of there's outdoor chillers that we have for those. We have So we do a lot of screen printing here, and so our screens have to be cleaned and washed. And so we have an eco wash system, which, if you could imagine, it's almost like a large car wash. You know, you put your car on the little roller, and it pulls your car through, and it drops soap on it, and then it scrubs it, then it rinses it. Think of something like that, where it's maximized efficiency. It's made it a lot more consistent as far as cleaning screens, because you don't have someone using a power washer to spray everything down. It's a lot cleaner. You're using a lot less chemicals, so there's some toxic chemicals that goes into the tanks. So when we're able to reuse that chemical, we're able to filtrate it, and then reuse it again. So we're not using additional chemicals or unnecessary chemicals. And then it's filtered before we ever discharge the water. So um, that's probably going to be the bulk of our water usage, aside from break rooms, restrooms. Most of our stuff is not going to require water usage.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, so now we're going to get to the fun stuff, and then I'll show you some examples as well. And just in case my links don't work, because sometimes on here the links don't work, so it's kind of hit or miss. All right, can you guys see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so before I start, because there's going to be two different things going on here, so I want to make sure that it's clear. Um, we're going to be talking about marking and labeling is in terms of UL, and then we're going to be talking about um, the use of their logo. Okay, so there's two different things going on, and at times those two things can cross and they can intersect and they both apply, but also those two things are independent. Okay, so I want to make sure that that's understood before we start. So marking and labeling, that's going to be materials, ink systems, things like that. Use of their logo is going to be another thing, and then sometimes we have to have a certain construction and a certain use of their logos, and those two things might connect. But think of them interdependently or independently, and not necessarily clumped into one thing. Okay. All right. So this procedure is what we came up with as far as UL training. It applies to MSI products that have UL requirements only. Okay. MSD, we do not have any. This does not apply to MSD because that is a non-printed. These are non-printed components that typically go on the inside of something. Um, the MSI UL is going to be for things that are going to have some kind of print, usually, not all the time, but normally, or will have print at some point. So this is where you guys come in, and this is going to highlight all of the different responsibilities for everyone. CS is responsible for retrieving and saving customer requirements in the form of engineering drawings, UL approvals, or A letters. LJ is really good about Kone is one of her customers, and I'll show you one of those POs here a little bit. She's really good about making sure that we have the UL approval to use the serial numbers. We know what the serial number range is, that we have any stamped approvals or letters indicating that we are able to uh, print these products, because UL is very as a company, you protect your brand, and so they're very strict about use of their products and traceability and use of their logo. And then LJ probably have already shown you guys, this will be attached to the order in ENT, just like just like a purchase order would be, just like a blueprint would be. Any email communication is relevant to the job. It'll all be attached to the order in ENT. Estimating and planning, they're responsible for planning the estimates and jobs per UO requirements as applicable and as specified on the information provided to them by CS or the customer. And then they're also responsible for using the appropriate materials, marking the job components with the proper UL designation or UL type. I don't know if this talks about what the UL designation is, but I'll say it now just so you're aware. But designation is basically a file. Okay, I'll use MSI 3000 for example. 3000 MSI 3000 is our designation. It's a file that defines the material, the ink systems, any adhesives, um, any colors that are approved or not approved. And it's basically an entire system, and it shows these are the approved materials that you can use or not use. Okay, and so we have 30 plus designations. So as you guys get requests from customers and they say that they have some kind of UL requirements, LJ and Sheila will be your first line of defense and can let you know what documentation we may need. And then any other UL questions that anyone's not able to answer, they'll come to me. UL type, I'll talk about that a little bit later on the same document. Our production artists, they are responsible for verifying that the correct documents are saved on the network and or attached to the job in ENT, that the UL designation field and UL type field are filled out in the proper code that's going to be on our work order level, and then that all necessary marks and serial number approvals are easily retrievable from the network. Okay, so starts with customer service. LJ makes sure that she attaches all of the documentation that she needs. Planning and estimating will then double check that documentation and verify certain information. And then the production artist will be a third party check to ensure that those requirements are being met and they've been entered on the order appropriately, and that they've been communicated downstream. QA, we're responsible for gatekeeping the UL account. So all of the files are maintained on UL's website, and the access to the original files are on that website. What I do is, as I'm updating, right now I'm working on a project where I'm updating uh, 4 designations, and I think I'm adding 3 or 4 designations. Once we get those files approved by UL, I save the documents on a folder. So I can find it for you real quick. So what I do is I will update and I will save each designation to a folder. So these are just examples of different designations. I use 3000 as an example, but I'm just going to find one and show you what that file looks like, just so you know what a designation is. So this is an example of one of our designations. Okay, so as you go through, it kind of gives you general verbiage of what the intent of this document is and the testing parameters. And then it just kind of has the different surfaces and materials that are allowed, some details about surfaces. This part's not necessarily that important to you guys right now. Then it highlights the different surfaces and the weather, I'm sorry, different surfaces and the temperature ranges, and if it's for indoor or outdoor use. And then what's really important is it highlights the different things that are important. So in this case, the printing process and the inks, face stock, adhesive, and release liner. And so these are the different inks that I'm able to use and different presses that I'm able to use. And these are the different label stocks that I'm able to use. So if I do anything outside of what this document says while producing this 78, 71U, then I will be found non-conforming to UL's files, and that typically will result in a deviation, which is like a non-conformance to them. So that's a bad thing. You don't want to have non-conformances. You want to meet the requirements of UL every time. If you have issues meeting their requirements, then it's possible that they could remove that file and restrict you from being able to ship certain products. So you want to be as accurate as possible. Okay. All right. So what I do, like I said, is I'll download. What I'll do is I'll download the designations from UL just so that I have a local copy saved on my desktop and it's available for anyone to use. Okay, sorry about that. All right. Just note that the photo that I showed you, it's possible that those are subject to change, and so, like I said, I'm working on some changes right now. So whatever's in that folder, once I've finished with the change, I update it and I replace what's in that folder with the new download. Okay, so I'll try to keep it as updated as possible. When you're looking at drawings, you're gonna see UL 969 or just in a general statement, that says UL 969, or someone may say it in person. What does that mean? It's how the labels are tested. It's scrape test, adhesion test. It's basically 969 acts as a testing parameter, basically. Okay, so UL 969 has certain, pill expectations or adhesion expectations or outdoor expectations, right? You want your label to last as long as the product does, and so they have limitations on. They do testing on weatherability, legibility of the text on the labels that we make. So it's kind of a general term for a testing parameter. Okay. UL 969 is an American thing. There's a Canadian standard. It's like CSA 22 something. It's like 22.9 or something like that, which is a uh, similar testing parameter as the 969, and they follow similar rules. I think UL might be a little bit tighter uh, in restrictions than the Canadian version of it.
Yeah, I have a question, Patrick. I remember, I don't know with which department we saw the MSI products, and there was the ULCCSA, which is the Canadian Standard Authority. I don't know. I have a note here, so this is the same, basically.
Yep, that's it. So, are you saying the logo? You saw a logo with UL, and had the C in the USA.
No, we had a meeting. I don't know which department it was. In which they were explaining like the different products that we make as an MSI, and they refer to the UL slash CSA. Uh, Basically, just like um, that they that we do products based on
Oh,
that.
yeah.
So,
Okay, yeah, yeah. This
so
is
this is
that.
the same.
Yep, this is that.
Oh,
Yep, and I assume LJ, was that like training material, like the marketing book or something?
It could be, yeah, with Eddie and Adam when during the sales meeting they were talking about it.
Okay.
yes, it was with Eddie in the presentation of the sales. I remember.
If Eddie said it, it was probably wrong. All right. Well, yeah, this is
Yeah.
that. So this will give you a little bit more clarity as to what that actually means. Okay. This is where it's going to start getting confusing. Okay. Sorry. So there's multiple layers of requirements when labeling and marking. So notice that you see these X's and then a two and then X's and then an eight. The two stands for a US recognition, the eight stands for Canadian recognition. And at times we have PGD, well, I'll get to those numbers in a second, but we have Canadian and American, we're able to meet US and Canadian requirements. So normally, and a lot of our suppliers also, if they're going to have certified products in the US, typically it's also certified in Canada. There's going to be like, I don't know how to describe it. I guess it's going to be alphanumeric word jumble. Okay, when I start going through these letters, this lettering scheme. So don't, if you get confused, let me know. Okay. All right. So PGGU2 and PGGU8. Okay. What's the difference between the two and the eight?
The Canadian and US, right?
Yep. Exactly. So PGGU2 and PGGU8, these are the lowest levels of the UL 969 parameters. Okay. So this means the raw material for manufacturers that they worked on, they've been tested, but no ink systems applied to them. So it covers the materials that are made to, it covers the material that's made to make the labels. An example of that will say drawing, will say UL approved material, UL listed material, or UL recognized materials. And for that, we will we will only provide them with material that is UL recognized. Okay, so In this case, this is a good example of a drawing for current technology, and notes 4 here calls out a material 3M7883 with lamination 3M7730, and they want those to be UL and CSA approved. Okay. When you read this drawing, the only requirements of this drawing regarding UL is that they want that material to be UL approved. There's no other requirement here that impacts UL. Okay. So that's the very, very base level. So as an example, we order material from Flexcon. We'll review their data sheets. On their data sheet, it'll tell us what UL file number this is recognized under. And then it'll also say that it's PGGU2 or PGGU8 conforming. Okay. So lowest level, material only. What we do to it after the fact, there's no UL impact. The material itself just has to be UL recognized. Okay. But then that moves us into the PGJI2 and PGJI8. Okay. PGJI2 and PGJI8, these are going to be for materials that have been tested by the manufacturer with printing on them. And typically it's for blank labels or labels that we provide to a customer with printing, and they do additional printing on there. Before accepting a PGJI order, we need to identify the ribbon or toner that the customer is using. After that, we know we have a system. We have to verify that ink system is approved for the material specified on the order. So let me give you an example. This is a really good example. If it opens, there we go. So PGJI2 is the materials tested by UL, and print system is tested by UL for additional printing. So that means that we could either manufacture a blank label and we can send it to a customer and they do all of the printing, or we can manufacture pre-printed labels and the customer adds a serial number or a lot number or a date of manufacture to it after we print. It's important that if you know we're doing additional printing and that there's UL requirements, it's important that we know what product they're using to print on our product, because I've seen customers get in trouble. We use the right materials, we had the right designation, we have the right traceability, but then they're using something that's not allowed, then they'll get in trouble because on that file, it'll say we have to use an iMac foil or we may have to use a Sony foil. So it's very specific. So if you use anything, and they're black and white. So if you use anything outside of what's on your UL file, then that would be considered a non-conformance. Okay? And that'll hinder your ability to be able to ship those products under that designation. So in this case, notice note number 2 here. So material, they want a polyester that's 2 mils thick with category PGGU2. Okay, PGGU2 is going to be just for the raw material by itself. Okay, but then underneath it, they say you will recognize components under PGJI2. So now they're telling me that they're going to be doing some kind of printing on their end. And then they finish it up by saying the types of ribbons that they're going to be using. So it's going to be for use with either an iMac SP330 or Zebra 5095. Okay, so all of that's important because you remember that UL designation that I just went over a few minutes ago, where I showed the base, the adhesive, the overlaminate liner, and the ink systems that are acceptable for that. They have to, this material, the iMac or this Zebra, has to be on our file in order for them to comply with the UL requirements.
So let me see if I'm getting it.
Okay.
The PGGU2. Could you go back into the UL training? So it is the raw materials, right?
Yes,
Okay.
PGGU is just raw materials by itself.
Okay, and the PGJI2 was
That's going to be for either, it's going to be for additional printing. So when you hear PGJI2, that means that the customer is going to be printing on their end. Okay, so that means the material has to be approved with a certain ink system.
okay. So imagine, I know there's a piece of paper, right?
Mhm.
This is PGGU2, this is the raw material, but
Mhm.
the customer needs a PGJI2. So the same material, the PGGU2 needs to be PGGI2, so they can print on it on the same
Yes.
material, or it's a different one.
No, it can be the same material.
Okay.
So I don't know if that makes
Okay.
sense. Let me see if I can find. I'll find a file for you. See if that helps.
For me, what it makes sense that when they ask the JI2 is when they're gonna print on it and they need it to. So if it was, if it is a JI2, it needs to be GGU2, right?
Yes,
Okay. So it cannot
yes,
be JI2 without the GG other thing.
correct,
Okay.
correct. All right, so this is an example of. Does it give me my? No, it doesn't. Okay, let's find another one. Let's do this. Perfect. This will work. Okay. All right. So this would be an example of one of my UL files. Okay. So this is for PGJI2. Okay. And then it starts off with the different printer combinations. Okay. Printer ink combinations. So any of these ink systems here are allowable. So whether we're printing using this system or the customer's printing using the system, we both have to use compatible systems that allows for us to meet these inks, if that makes sense. So if, for example, we're using SP330, but the customer, when they print their serial number, they're using, I'm going to make something up, they're using SP530. Well, if 530 is not on this form on my file, then that's a non-conformance. It has to be the same ink systems that we're allowed to use here. Okay. And then that also goes down into the different surfaces and temperature ratings. And then it gives you your construction details here. So it has to be this material, this impact material, whatever that is. And your answer your question, this is PGGU2. So the material by itself is PGGU2. Okay. But when you add these ink systems that the customer is going to be doing some type of printing, that makes it PGJI2.
That's correct. Okay, I got it.
That makes sense, Daniel. That makes sense.
Sorry,
Wake
I'm
up, Daniel.
just catching up. I
Okay.
had to
Do
step
I need
away
to
for the
explain
past
anything?
minutes.
You want me to re-explain anything?
I can review the recap.
Okay. Fair enough. Let me get my folder back in order.
Basically, it for it to be PGJI2 needs to be PGGU2.
To start
The
with,
raw
yes.
material. It
Yes,
needs to
correct.
start with PGGU2.
Yes. And then it becomes PGJI2 when you add those ink systems that I highlighted.
Daniel,
And
but
keep,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Oh, I was just to tell Daniel. Cuando dice PJI2, Daniel, es porque le van a poner algo encima al PGGU2. Literalmente, nada más eso. Sorry to change language, just to explain, Daniel.
Nope, it's all good. No, I appreciate it. So those are the first two levels of the UL969. Okay, so UL969 are the testing parameters. So you have the
Thank you.
PGGU2, and then you have the PGJI2. Okay, now we're going to get into the PGDQ2 and 8. All right, so this is the highest level of the authorized label supplier program. That means that the individual printer gets material, ink, over laminate tested as a combination. And we can only use this when it's specifically requested. Okay, so the UL recognition and manufacturer ID must be on the smallest package and inside of all row cores. So if a customer says, we looked at that first drawing and it said materials UL recognized, that does not for us mean PGDQ2. Okay. Um, That means if they don't ask for any other levels of UL conformance or compliance, I'm sorry, then we're going to assume that it's going to be PGGU2 or 8. Okay. If they ask for UL recognized material and we see that they're asking for additional printing on their end, then we would need to start questioning, is this PGJI2? Do you need to have the right ink system? Do you need traceability for this? When you jump into the PGDQ2, this is the highest level, meaning all materials involved, all ink systems involved, and the printer themselves, so marking systems, we would have to also be UL approved to print. Okay. We have our own file where we have 30 or so designations. And so it's important that when we are entering orders for PGDQ2 or 8, that we notate that on the order, because when the note says the manufacturing ID must be on the smallest label package or inside of the row cores, I don't have one with me right now. But when we print out the label, there's going to be a backwards RU. That backwards RU is UL's, uh, that is their recognition. That is their, what's the word? I just went blank. Um, that is their UL recognized sign. So the backwards RU is a connected RU. I'll see if I can find one before we finish with the meeting. But it's important that it's on every package down to the smallest. It's on the bags that these are put in. It's on a core if there's a roll. If the bags are put into a box, it's on the box. And so those are the few ways that we identify the UL traceability on there. And it'll have MSI somewhere on there. It'll say MSI 4100 or MSI 3000 or MSI 7871. In addition to that, on the CFC that we send to the customer, if those sections are filled out for UL conformance, it'll show the UL designation on the CFC as well, and which one was met. So it'll say MSI 20101 or MSI 3000. They take this very seriously. So when we see this type of job, it needs to be identified and estimated and marked on the component with the correct UL designation, so that the part number labels print with the UL mark and MSI logo automatically. In ENT, the job component field UL designation should say MSI and then whatever that designation is. So we'll use 3000 as an example. And UL would be the UL designation for that material and ink combination. Let's see
What
if
are
this opens.
some what are some job types that require this level of recognition?
I'll find you one right now. Or LJ, do you have a Kone that you could pull up real quick?
Yes, let me see. Actually, I'm working on that right now. So
You can
for the
shoot me.
UL,
Yeah, and I'll pull it up.
oh, 3950, 3935 is the account number. Let me get you one real quick. I'm trying to.
Okay. While you're looking at that, these are the list of our active designations. And so every one of these numbers is a different construction, different print system, different laminate, different adhesives, things like that. So when you guys have a requirement for a UL PGDQ2, in my estimating department will look for, just lost it. My estimating team will then look for what are the customer requirements. Do we have a designation that can meet that requirement? And if we do, then they'll select the appropriate designation here. Okay, and then this tells them, okay, it's MSI 7500 with use of this material, with use of this laminate. This is the type of adhesive on it, and then you have to print it, mark them. Okay, and so there's different print methods here, and this is just kind of serves as a general cheat sheet for the estimating team to make it easier for them to identify and quickly highlight which designation we're going to use for the job. Sorry, my ENT is moving very slow for me today. All right, and serial number, so it's probably any of them. Okay, perfect. Actually, right now, I'm just gonna use this example to show you what that recognized mark looks like, just so you're familiar with it. And then LJ, I can use this as an example once we get to the next section for the A letters,
Okay. Oh,
for the
video
serial
that I just
numbers.
sent you.
Mm-hmm. That's a good example. There's a saved sample, but this is a good example as well. And this is going to be one that kind of blurs the lines of the construction and the use of the logo. OJ, don't get mad at me, but I'm about to ask you a question because I don't want to go back in my screen. What's the job number for? Never mind. I'm gonna have to do it anyways.
Yeah, what part number?
313. I didn't know
You got
which
the
one it
part number.
was. That's all good. I write it down anyways. All right. Shipping label. Hmm. 86. 37, 31, 3.
And if you're gonna show an example, uh, make sure you can see it because I haven't seen it. Sometimes
Okay.
it doesn't show up on the screen.
Um,
There it goes.
no, that one doesn't have it. Is see another change only. Okay, so these don't have these are serial number only. I thought these were, okay, it's not a good example. Let me find one.
Are you looking for like that have the UL mark on them or
Hmm. Well, the shipping
agave?
label, it's okay. I got one. Ooh, of course
Okay.
it did do what I needed to do. All right, 201 1764. That's wrong. Okay, so here's an Abbott. Four seven three. That is so slow. Mm, 6.
What we're looking at?
Yep, I'm getting it up now. System is just really
I see.
slow.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Perfect. So
Oh, okay.
this little logo here. So this is the UL recognized logo with the C and the US. And then also on there it'll say MSI and then whatever designation you met. So in this case it's 20101. Okay. That information is important to UL, but also important to our customers. And then I'll show you the packing slip and CFC for this because it also will identify that same corresponding number. Here, it'll say that it's meeting the UL 20101. Above it, it says it's meeting the UL 969, but specifically it's meeting 20101. So here's an example of what the drawing would look like if it is specifically asking you for PGDQ2. And again, we only will estimate PGDQ2 if the customer clearly defines that that is a requirement, okay? So in this case, they have notes 3 and 5. Here it says that UL, the label must conform to UL 969 and 61010-1. It shall be UL approved material with supplier name and label name or designation on inside of roll cores. And then this CSA 22.2 is the Canadian standard for alternative to the CSA UL 969. This number is going to be relevant to like the medical field. So it's not relevant to us. This is a requirement that Abbott would have to conform to, but for us, we have to meet the conditions of 969. Okay. This, when they say supplier name and label name on the designation, designation on the inside or work roll cores, to us, that immediately one tells us that it needs to meet PGDQ2, even though it didn't clearly state it in this note. In order to have that recognition mark that I just showed you, and have our MSI show up on there, it has to have a designation filled out for it. But for Abbott, they go even a step further and they clearly define the requirements here by saying this part is a UL critical part. Any changes to this part must be approved by EMC / safety group, labeled to be UL recognized component category PGDQ2. So they were very, very specific here. They did not leave any room for error or guessing. They were clear to what this needs to meet. And what we do is verify that we can do this stuff up here and also align it with everything else below it. Okay. So this is a perfectly written drawing or engineering blueprint stating the requirements of the UL 969. Okay, any questions so far on that? I know it's a little confusing, but any questions so far on the marking and labeling part of the UL?
I have a question.
Yes.
Can you go to the PDF where they show like the different UL things? The PGG, those. Okay, so the PGDQ2 is basically we are able to do everything UL certified, right? From beginning to end to the final product.
Are we looking at
Um,
C?
yes, the C.
C, yeah. Yeah, so C is everything, all inclusive. It's the ink, it's the materials, any materials that were used for it, the press that was used to print it.
So basically, the photo that you showed us before of the project of LJ, right?
Yes.
Okay. And the B one is
Mhm.
basically like the sheet of paper, so the client can print on it. Um, their the basically anything UL certified on the because the paper is UL certified. Is that right?
So the paper is UL certified, but it's UL approved, but it also has approval for certain ink systems for additional printing. So when you think of PGJI2, I want you to always think about the customer doing printing on their end. So
Uh-huh.
they need approved material for them to print in house. So just think
Okay,
about additional printing when you think about PGJI2.
got it.
PGDQ2 100% cannot be printed by them. It has to be a completed product that leaves here with no other changes made to it.
Exactly. What is and do you have an example of the A? Like
The eight's going to
what
be the same thing.
as what? Sorry.
It's this, the 8 is the same thing as the 2. It just signifies whether it's
No,
approved in Canada or the US.
yeah, I got that. No, I mean the A, the PGGU2.
Oh, A. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So PGGU2. Sorry, I heard A8, not A. I'm sorry. PGGU2, lowest level, bare minimum. The material itself has to be UL approved. Nothing else.
But is there a project that uses that one? Like just the material? Like what can it be?
So when it's just when it's PGGU2, the only thing that
Uh-huh.
we're certifying or that we're making sure is that we have the appropriate materials and that the materials that are selected meets the UL approval. Okay, so we won't. That doesn't mean our ink system needs to be UL approved. Whatever we're using to print on it does not need to meet the 969 parameters. Just the material by itself. Let me
Okay.
find a I'll find a data sheet also that may be helpful.
So basically, they don't need everything to be super certified, just like the bare minimum, right?
Yep.
For any other reasons.
Yep. I would just think of it as bare minimum.
Okay, got it.
I'll find a data sheet and show you what they look like and the steps that my team takes, or the steps that the estimating team takes. In this tools, and it's very easy, very fast step. And this is what we use to verify if materials are meeting UL compliance and conformity. Let's do FlexCon because they're really good about. I mean, any company that has their products tested to UL, they're going to. It's almost like advertising. They want people to know that, so they'll make it public information. They'll make it very easy for you to see. So, like this, for instance, so if this drawing was calling out, let's say it's calling out this material, right? So this says that the material must be UL and CSA approved. What my team's going to do is they're going to take a look at the data sheet and verify if it's been tested or not. So in this case, it's a UL is recognized under UL 969 file number PGGU2, okay, because it's coming directly from the manufacturer as being certified by UL. And this is their file number. So if I looked up this number on Google, or I went to UL IQ product search and I put this number in, this would show me all of the products that FlexCon has under their file that's filed under the UL 969 PGGU2. Okay. And then it further goes down to say that it's recognized under PGGU8 under that same file number. And this is for the CU recognized portion of it. Okay, that makes sense. So this PGGU2, bare minimum, nothing other than material needs to be UL approved, but nothing that we add to it or what the customer adds to it will need to meet any conditions of UL. PGJI2 is going to be material that was approved with certain ink systems when there's additional printing to take place. So if the customer is doing any printing and they ask for UL recognized components, we should then ask them if they're not clear, or do they need to meet PGJI2, because PGJI2, just like PGDQ2, they require traceability and that backwards RU mark on the label. So it has to be on the smallest cores. The PGGU2 does not require that same level of traceability.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Make sense, Daniel?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. And if not, Jair, he did a real good job of translating for me. So Jair, he's asking a lot of good questions, so he'll help make it make sense. Okay.
Yes,
All
and
right.
I'm also following along with the PDF on my end.
Okay. Good deal. All right. So now we're moving into a different realm. Okay. So you remember I told you we have marking and labeling, and then we have the use of the logo. Okay. So two different things. However, those two things can sometimes occur at the same time. Okay, but they're independent things. All right. So MSI, we're an authorized label supplier, which gives us the permission to print the UL mark on labels. The UL marks link this here is really for our art department so that they have the latest UL marks, because sometimes UL will change their marks, or they may say recognized instead of certified, or they may say classified, or they may say listed. And so whenever they change their marks, um, we have to ensure that we have the latest revisions of those UL marks. So my art department uses that link. For us, before we can print the mark, we have to verify that we have either a UL approved drawing showing that mark. I'll show you an example of that. And typically you really won't see these anymore unless it's a really old drawing. Because most customers now, especially unless it's a really old drawing like this is from 2010, this is the way that UL Legacy used to approve drawings. Is they would give you the customer's drawing with their stamp of approval on there. Old school method that has been since replaced, and it's been replaced by this document, which is called a listing mark data page. Okay, so this is the second thing that we would need. So we would either need to have an approved stamp drawing, the listing mark data page, which identifies the file number and then any alphanumeric control number that might be being used on that product. And the third way that we would be able to get approval, or the third way we would get approval, is if we have an A letter on file. And I'll show you an example of that a little bit further down. And then the last way is to check on UL's IQ UL prospector, which is what I do, and ensure that the customer is active and that they have permission to use the mark. Okay. If we don't have all of that information, and this is what we need you guys for, is we need you guys to help obtain that information before we can move it to the next department.
This would be before estimating, correct?
Yes. Well, so for them, they can estimate a product, Daniel. This is just before printing it, because a lot of times you estimate things, you may not win it. And so requesting those documents may be one, premature,
Okay.
or unnecessary because you may not even win that bid. So it's important that when we win that order that we ensure that we have that information.
Okay. So since we will be contacting with the customer initially, do we bring up that we have the certifications before winning it? Like when we are trying to win it?
Typically, if they're coming to you, they already have that approval, or
Okay.
it's in the works. Because
And they already know because it's on the website everywhere.
well, typically, so for example, this is for use of the logo. So if they're designing a label to go on their boat or on their computer monitor,
Okay.
someone in their compliance is already aware that this is going to need, if we're going to use the UL logo, they're going to have a project with UL in order to get approval to use that. So typically this is already either in the works or it's already done. We just need to receive that document that we're allowed to print this mark.
Got it.
Okay.
Do you also produce food safe printing, or I don't know? Because I think those would require different certifications.
Yeah, that's going to be more along the lines of FDA.
Okay.
And those types of requirements. We do not have any FDA certifications or
Okay.
anything like that. We did at one point, probably 4 years ago, for a project that we were doing then, but we've since let it expire and we didn't pursue it again. There may be some products that we have that is typically like FDA. It's not food grade. It's what's the word? I think you said it'll say something along the lines of indirect food exposure or something to that effect, but we don't have any FDA requirements or certificates or anything like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right. So in the spirit of talking about the logos, there's going to be two things that we need. One, and we're going to just, I can't talk, man. I don't know what's going on. I think my mouth is done for the week. So we have two different types of labels. We have type R labels, and that means that these are the labels with the UL mark. Okay, so that's going to be your U. Oh, don't do that. So I don't know if you can see that. That's going to be your U with the UL with the circle, and then you'll have the C or the US on either end of it.
Okay. Yeah, I see
that?
it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this would be a type R label, okay, because we're using their logo. Okay, so in our system, we would have to mark this as a type R. label. Okay, and that'll show up on the CFC and the shipping bag and cord label and all of that good stuff. Okay, in order to use that or to print that label, that logo, we have to receive approval from UL on the contents of that text surrounding the logo. Okay. And then for you guys as customer service, it's your responsibility to save it in this folder. So once you request that information from them, you save it in this folder using the UL 4-digit code. So an example of that 4-digit code um, would be this. Okay. Typically, it's either going to be a control number. So like in this case, the one that I just showed you, it has the file number. So it has this number printed on the label itself, but it can either be the file number or the control number, which is just a shorter alphanumeric number. And anytime that we're reviewing UL logos, we're always looking for that file number or that control number. And that's what I'm using to search on UL's IQ website to ensure that that is an active file, that we're actually allowed to print that.
So, can you repeat what do we need to save under?
Yep. So you would get, for example, this document. Okay. So customer said, "Hey, I need you to print a label for me. It's going to have this logo." Um, you would need to ask them for that UL approval. So in this case, it's going to be a listing mark data page. You would save it with the control number.
So if a customer sends me a label and he tells me it needs to be UL certified, he needs to send me that other paper that you told me, the file with the UL file with the thingy,
Yep,
right?
that's going to be one of the ways. Yeah. So this as an example, if you can see in the name, it's saved with 3PA7. That's the control number for this stamped drawing. Okay.
Okay.
In this case, the control number is 3KWL. Okay. So for me or for anyone who's searching to see if we have the file already in our system, if you save it along the parameters of this UL
I think you
stamp
froze.
drawing, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Did you freeze or
I'm
did I
frozen.
freeze?
Maybe you.
I
I'm
think you
still moving.
freeze. Yeah, I can see Patrick dance.
Okay, so it was me.
Don't judge my dancing. Okay, so those documents, just to give you a little more information, those documents, so either this marked listing data page or this drawing that they provide, you would need to save it in this location. And what that does is, LJ, she used Agave as an example of one of her customers. When a customer gets UL approval to use the logo on project number one, right, they're producing some kind of satellite. Okay. Well, they may develop another satellite similar to that one. It does a little bit of a different function, but it would still be under that same file number or that same control number. I don't need to ask for that. I don't have to ask for that approval from them again because I already have that file on in my records. I would just need to verify that that file is still active. Okay, so I've had customers send us multiple products that uses the same control number. I don't have to go back and ask them, can you send me this? Because we already have it on file. So what I would do is if you save it accordingly to those instructions with 3KWL in the file name, when you type it in into everything, three KWL, then it should bring up, oh, well, look, here we go. I do have that already. And so I don't have to ask the customer, I have it on file. The only other responsibility for me would be to go put this number or this number into UL's website and ensure that it's still active and it's not an old inactive file. Okay, so you will save it here in this location. Okay.
Got it. Before we continue, so UL certified. What does it change on a label? Like, why does a customer want it to be UL certified to comply
So
with something or?
yeah, so if you're talking the use of the logo in this case, why is that important? UL is for consumer safety, basically. So if you see a product that's been tested and UL approved, that means that you can assume that it's safe to use. Okay. If you use it under the if you use it in the way that it was intended to be used, you know it's a safe product. And I don't want this to come off bad, but let's say a cheap screen from some other country, okay, and those screens burn up because the internal components aren't safe to use because it's been plugged in for too long. It's unsafe for consumers, burns a house down. Well, they will verify that this product is a safe product to use if used under the parameters of its intended use. So it just provides consumers with the expectation of safety. UL is big for us in the US. CSA kind of blurs the line with CSA and UL blurs each other's borders. Europe has their own. Uh, I think there's also an Intertech ETL here in the States. I know there's a bunch of different types of organizations that pretty much do the same function, just different names, different organization bodies. But
Okay.
for us, UL is the bigger one for us. But we get audited by UL and CSA. UL 4 to 5 times a year, CSA once a year. But I think I might have jumped ahead of myself a little bit. But here, you want to make sure that you have a stamp drawing. If that's the case, again, that's very old. Chances of you having a stamp drawing means that it's been something that's been printed for decades at this point, and without any change to revision. Okay. Sometimes the same label that has the UL Type R requirements also requires UL recognized materials, PGGU2, or requires PGDQ2. Notice it says sometimes, though. It's not always the case. Okay, so that's why I want you to think of these two things independently. Okay. UL stamp drawing can be used on multiple labels for the same customer. So that kind of goes back to what I was when I said I jumped ahead of myself. The same logo can be used on different labels if they're under the same file or under the same control number. The approval is only for the mark and not for the contents of the label. So in customer service, you'll change the UL type field to a type R label. Okay. A letter. All right. So those are type R labels. Okay. So R labels are a use of the logo. Now we're going to get into type L labels. Okay. These are serial number or issue number labels, and they may or may not include the UL mark on the label itself. Okay, so serial number, issue numbers are assigned by UL in an A letter. Even if it has the UL mark, even if it has the UL mark, it does not require a stamp drawing because that letter serves as your approval to use that mark. And the letter is issued by UL and it's requested by the customer of MSI. So we do not go to UL to get this form from them. The customer's responsibility is our responsibility to ask the customer for that approval. Okay, and those serial numbers have to be issued by UL in a form of a purchase order. And I'll show you an example of the A letter right after this. With A letters, it's important that we print the exact quantity that's listed on the A letter because remember, it's serialized. So I can't print extras on the front end. I can't print extras on the back end. I have to, if my serial numbers are 1 to 1000, I am only able to print 1 to 1000, and that's it. It's also important that on A letters that we only ship to the address on the A letter. I can't ship it. You know, we had an issue with Kone where we typically ship their product to an expediter or consolidator. The address on UL's form or on their A letter is for the Mexico branch where it's ultimately going to end up. Problem is we ship to El Paso and then they take it over the border for us. Well, we can't ship to El Paso. We have to ship directly to Kone in order for them to receive this, or they have to amend the A letter to the address that they intend on this being shipped to. We cannot ship to anyone or any other organization or address than what's on that A letter. And then when you get those A letters, you should save them just like you would save a purchase order. And in fact, LJ does a really, really great job of, how did she do it here? She didn't do it on this one, but this is an old one. So normally what she does is she'll take the customer PO. In fact, the order that she gave me earlier is probably a good example. This one. I'll show you how she does it right now. And I love that she does it this way. Yes. Okay. So LJ, when she gets an A letter from UL, it comes at the same time as a purchase order from Kone. And so what she does is she will consolidate the customer PO and the ULA letter together onto one document. So it makes it easy for us to find everything in one place. So I can see Kone's logo. I can see their PO number. I can see the part numbers that are being ordered. For me, I'm not worried about the dates or anything like that, but I can see the quantity for each part that's being ordered. And then as we go down, she also attaches that UL approval A letter on here. Okay. So it's our job to ensure, does this number match this number? It does. Good. That's one check. Um, does this shipping location that says Matamoros, is that where we're shipping to? I have to verify that, make sure that that's shipping to Matamoros. I'm looking for this part number to ensure that if their purchase order says 3,000 pieces, just like this does, that this is the serial number range that we're actually printing on it. So this tells me what my serial number start and what my serial number end is. And I can't print any numbers outside of that. Okay. We'll have to do that for all 5 of these part numbers as they're entered and verify that information on there. If you remember, I said just a second ago, even if it has the UL mark, it does not require a stamp drawing. The reason for that is because if you see this note here, it says this is an authorization to print labels, supplier to send invoice. So the part at the top is what's important, but this is an authorization to print labels. So I don't have to have a stamp drawing. I don't have to have a listing mark data page that's allowing me to print this. This letter in itself serves as my authorization to print. Okay. Makes sense so far? Okay. And remember,
Yes.
if we're printing the logo, we have to have one of these things. Okay. It is an absolute must. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
And the fact that they require it to be shipped to that location that is on their database is just to ensure strict compliance and, I don't know, no tampering or something
Exactly.
like that.
Yep,
Okay.
exactly. That's exactly it. They're very tightly controlled and they want to ensure that those, you don't want to have like I got in trouble, for example, couple of months ago. We shipped a product. It did not have the UL recognized logo on there, so it was missing from the smallest package. Okay, we didn't know that there was a requirement until they came back after the fact. So it wasn't something that we missed. It was something that was uncommunicated. And I said, well, it's fine because when I looked at it, we did meet a UL recognition, so I could just send you some labels and you can apply them to your box, and everything's fine. Big no-no.
Mhm.
Because it needs to ship out on the box, on the label at the time that we ship it. They don't want any application to that label later on down the process because it could be used incorrectly.
Because this is so tight, do these type of orders require an FAA order always?
No, not really. There's
Okay.
customers where we may have additional inspections put into
But
this
in
before
itself,
stuff.
it is sort of, I mean, it serves the same purpose, right?
Somewhat, yeah, it does.
Okay.
Yep, they're very, very particular about use of their they're very particular about use and misuse, okay, of their
Right.
logos, and so that can lead to major regulatory issues.
Yeah, because the logo means that you follow the exact procedures. And if you didn't follow the exact procedures, then you shouldn't use a logo.
Yeah, and I imagine it would have some pretty hefty legal implications,
Yeah,
whether it's intended or whether it's intentional or unintentional. I imagine it would have some pretty hefty legal issues.
right.
And then the last thing, and we're actually going really good on time because this is the end. The last thing is this is going to be what you more than likely will see. Customers are getting away from um, customers are getting away from this type of logo. That's kind of old school, so they're starting to transition towards what apparently is more aesthetically pleasing. This enhanced mark. Okay, so it's just a different looking mark. Uh, Thought I had one, but I don't have one here. But either way, this mark still serves. It serves the same purpose as this. It's just a newer version of it, and it also has that file number on there. And so when I'm verifying that we are able and actually active and able to use this approval, I'm verifying, is this file number open on the UL or not? I can show you an example.
I would say I think Agave Wire uses that
They
logo.
do. Yep. Agave does have the enhanced. You are absolutely right. Now let me see if I can. I'm gonna take you just real quick. I'm giving you access that I've never given to LJ. Okay, so don't tell her. So let's do this. All right. So when I'm wanting to verify if something is active or not, I can do a quick search in the UL product IQ. And in fact, this is how our customers find us at times. They'll put our file number in or they'll put printers in. And I've had customers find marking systems off of a whim. I've had suppliers tell them marking systems is a good company. You can go with them. They can meet all of your UL needs. So you can search by control number. That's that 4-digit alphanumeric number. You can search by company name. Actually, LJ, now that I'm mentioning it, Agave found us this way. If you remember, they used to work nearby, and then they moved to Rockwall, and they were
Yes.
looking. They looked by location and found us because we were close. Oh wait, sorry. So you can search by names. So you could find our. This is our file here. I don't know who these guys are. Maybe that's an older one that we don't have anymore. But this is our active file. So if a customer was looking for us, they could find us here, and then they could go into our file and see the different designations that we have. I've actually had a customer, uh, Hatco, do this. They went to our UL file, they looked at the different materials or surfaces that it could be applied to, and they found a specific designation that they wanted us to use, and they were very specific. For me, I don't use this to find us. I use this to verify an active file, so I'll just put in the file number or control number. In this case, doesn't look like this one's active anymore. The sample that I have from a couple years ago. Let me check it one more time. 3K. Nope, didn't look like it. So that particular one looks like it is no longer active, but I use that one for material for training purposes anyways. MH0170. So if you remember, I showed you one of our supplier data sheets and it referenced the DO969 PGGU2, and then it gave us a file number. If I ever wanted to know more information about that file, I could use this UL product IQ search as well. And I could look at the two different files that they have where they have the PGGU2 and PGGU8. And under that, I'll see their entire catalog of different products that we're able to use that meets that UL 969. Okay, so this is a really good tool for me to be able to verify UL conformance and UL active designations.
Perfect. You mentioned that we need to do some quizzes on the end of the PDF, right?
Yep, for the, well, hold on, ask that question again.
Yes, on the end of the PDFs that you send us, there are some quizzes. We have to
Yes,
make them, right?
yes, please. There's going to be two that I sent you that I want you to do, and that's going to be the ISO 9001 and ISO 14001.
We submit them today or
No, 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 no. If unless you're an overachiever, um, I
mm.
say about a week. How about that? We all have
Okay.
stuff to do, so no, I'm not that strict. But if you can get it back just in the next week, a week from today, that'll be perfect, and then we'll get it saved and put in your record, your employee file.
Okay, thank you,
You got
noted.
it.
LJ, could you on their training materials when you get back to the office, could you please, I guess, let me know and I can put my initials for performing the training for UL and for the ISO 14000 and 9000, 14001 and 9001.
Yes, I'll do that.
Then we can just say it was virtual training for
Yep.
their signatures. Okay,
o-
good deal.
Okay.
All right. Well, that is all I got. I don't know if you guys have any other questions. If you don't, that's fine. If you do, feel free to reach out to me, email me, call me. And then if you need to forward anything, shoot it to LJ or Sheila, and they should be able to help point you in the right direction. And then if they need further assistance, they'll send it to me.
Thank you, Patrick.
Got it,
Absolutely.
will do.
All right, great. Well, it was great talking to you guys. I'm going to drink some water because my mouth is getting dry. You guys have a great weekend.
Thanks,
Come back
you
Monday
too.
safe. Thank you. LJ, be safe.
Thanks.
Bye bye.
All right, bye,
Thanks,
guys.
Patrick. You
Yes,
have a
ma'am.
great afternoon.
Bye.
Bye.
You too. Bye bye.
All right. So, um, for the rest of the afternoon, you guys are free. Or if you want, y'all can work on the information that Patrick gave you, as well as the information that I gave you earlier today. So, but other than that, you're free for the rest of the weekend. So,
I have a question, Ajay. I don't think you're in the office right now, but maybe you don't have the answer. But I was speaking with our company with a firm,
yes.
and I asked about vacations and holiday. How do they work? And they told me to ask my manager, which is you, I think. So I don't know how it works. Don't worry, I'm not thinking taking vacations or anything like that. But I just would like to know, like, uh, do I have vacations or how do they work?
So usually, I think you get 5 days starting right away. So, and then once if you do need to use it, you can use it for your as sick pay as well too. If you're not able to work from work on the computer remotely, because sometimes you get the flu, you just cannot work it. So, in situations like that, so just when you do, usually give us at least, depending on when you need to take it, at least a month in advance so we can prepare to watch your desk, especially when you're after you're already fully trained and you're working with customers. But other
Mhm.
than that, usually I'll show you when it does come up that you're ready to place a vacation day. You will go and submit it. You'll have to submit it through Outlook. Oh, yeah, Outlook, and then it'll be submitted to um, the vacation calendar for approval. As in regards, since you're working through Pearl, I don't know. I think you just submit it to us and we'll approve it, and then we let them know in regards to that it's approved for you to take, and then I don't know how they'll work that out in regards to compensation or not. So I'm not familiar
Yeah,
with all that.
yeah. I have questions on that, like
Okay,
the
thank you.
holiday. So basically, we have only 5 days of holiday. Is that correct?
Correct. There are certain holidays that we do take, like the coming Labor Day holiday. So, but I don't know how that's going to work. So I'll have to get with um, Ashton and Zach on that.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Will you go
Okay.
ahead and send me that as an email so that way it's a reminder for me to get with them about it?
Oh, sure. Like the whole question, right, about holidays and all that.
Yes. Hmm.
Okay, I will send it.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Then talk to you guys later.
Bye bye. Have
Bye.
a good weekend.
You
Okay.
too.
Hope you have a good weekend.
Bye. Thank you. Get better.
Thanks. Goodbye.
Bye.